Hey friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and I'm so excited that you decided to take time out of your day to spend with me because today we are doing our October wrap up and our November reset. So we're going to talk about all the books that I read in October, and then we are going to set up our November journal spread. Yes, you know. So as always, we are going to So as always, we're going to start off with our story graph statistics. And for the month of October, I read 11 books, which ended up being a total of 4,767 pages. And my average rating was a 3.91. And, I just feel like this might be one of my best reading months yet. I don't count August because I reread a lot of my 5-star faves, so that average rating was a bit skewed. But as you'll find out, I had some hits this month. So, excited about that. And with that being said, let's just jump in and talk about the books that I ended up reading in October. Alrighty, we're going to start off with our DNFs as always and work our way up to the best. The first book that I DNF'd was The Boyfriend Project by Farrah Roshan. And this is a romance book about our main character, Samaya, sorry. And Samaya is dating this guy and finds out that he's also dating two other women as well. And so the three of them meet up and, give him the business. And it blows up on social media and it becomes this huge thing. And these women decide to become friends and kind of spend the next couple of months focusing on themselves and their dreams and not worrying about the societal pressures to get a man, And I think that for me, the thing that did not work was the dialogue. I found it very cringy. And some of the pop culture references I just wasn't a fan of. I still would recommend this book. I think a lot of people would like this book and find it interesting and have a good time with it. Like I said, I just couldn't, I got the ick. And so that's what happened. But I would still recommend this and think that people should pick it up and give it a shot. The next book on the DNF list is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. And at the beginning, I was really enjoying this. I liked the story, but then it got creepy. Once Claudia was introduced, it made me uncomfortable. And I don't know what was going to happen in this, but no thank you. I wasn't even going to see. Like, I just no. This is, even if it is a woman, it's a woman in a 5-year-old body, and I'm not gonna do it. Simple as that. I do still plan on watching the show and seeing what that's about because that's the reason why I picked up the book anyway. So I do want to check out the show, but the book, it's giving creep. So no. My next DNF of October was Witchbound Book 1 by Sable Cross. And this was about a witch who came from a family who the council really didn't like. So they kind of treated her bad, and she went and stole this ancient text and decided that she wanted to go to the Vampire Queen to help her translate it and kind of access this ancient blood magic type situation. And so the Vampire Queen says that, she'll give her lessons if she serves her court. So that's what's happening. But the thing about this was the lessons didn't feel like lessons to me. Like, oh, and our main character's name was Strawberry. So Strawberry would show up, and I think her name was Eris. The Vampire Queen's name was Eris. So Strawberry would show up, and Eris would basically just test her magic with a spell out of the book. There wasn't any real lessons being had. She didn't teach her how to translate or anything like that. It was like, show up, try the spell, clean up something, and leave. So I was already confused by that. But then they started falling in love with each other. And the only interactions they had were those moments when Strawberry would show up, get the lesson, clean up something, and leave. How are y'all falling in love? Where are all these feelings coming from? Am I skipping pages? What is happening? Did I miss something? Clearly, I missed something. But like, where? How? I'm supposed to believe this? No thanks. So I just gave up because I didn't want to get to the end and be pissed off. So yeah. And I have one more. And this one I think hurt a little bit more because I feel like this book had a lot of potential, but some unnecessary shit was done. And it just took me out, right? Okay. And that is Sign Here by Claudia Lux. I left the book in the other room. It's not worth it for me to go get. This is the cover anyway. So this book follows peyote who works in hell, and he works in the deals department in hell, and he has this big scheme cooking where if he gets one more person out of the Harrison family to sell their soul, he'll get a promotion, blah blah blah. And yes, that storyline was fine, but then we're also following the Harrison family that peyote is looking at. So we're following Silas the father, Lily the mother, Mickey the daughter, and Sean the son, right? Queens. Cool. So Mickey makes a new friend named Ruth, and Ruth is like a very popular, extroverted, outgoing type of person. You know the type of girl, right? So that is what kind of person Ruth is. And so the family decides to invite Ruth to their summer house. And yeah, okay. So Silas, the father, and this is probably going to be mildly spoilery, but I think I would want to know if I was going to read this book. So he has a very interesting reaction to Ruth right away. And it's like slick flirting. Like, not really like just overtly doing it, but like it's slick. And I picked up on it because I'm like, that's a little weird. It makes me a little uncomfortable. Why are we, even if she was like, because you can tell she was kind of in a little way flirting with him, but like he didn't have to, And then there was this scene where he did something that made me really uncomfortable. The way it was written, if you weren't paying attention, you probably wouldn't even catch it, but I caught it, and it made me uncomfortable, and it was unnecessary, and it had nothing to do with the plot, and I just wasn't okay with it. So what did I do? I stopped the book. But I went to the end because I wanted to see how it was all going to come together, right? And it didn't. It didn't come together. It didn't make sense. I wasn't a fan of the ending, and you know what? I'm glad I didn't finish this book because I would have been pissed off at that ending because it didn't make sense. Like, she tried to do too much and tried to make some things come together that didn't need to come together, and one of the storylines didn't even need to happen at all for the sake of the story. And then on top of that, the little uncomfortable pedophilia moments that the father was having with Ruth, that's how I felt about it. That's how I felt. And I'm usually, I try to, even when I don't like a book, I try to, but no, I don't even want that in my house. It's gotta go. Why do we need to write pedophilia? We don't. No. Ugh. But anyway, that was all of my DNFs for the month. Now I can't even talk. That was all of my DNFs for the month. A little more than I like to have, but I'm a DNF book when it needs to be DNF'd, and those needed to be. So yeah, next we're moving into our 3 stars for the month. We didn't have any 1 to 2.5 stars, thank goodness. That means it was a really good month. So let's go into the 3 stars, and the first one is A Touch of Chaos, which is the 7th and final book in the Hades and Persephone saga. Y'all, I'm so excited that I've finally finished the series. Like, I feel like it took me forever, but yes, so with this, we are getting our conclusion to the Hades and Persephone story, and I had a few issues with that with this book, which is why it ended up being a 3-star. I liked it overall, but what I did not like was the SA in this book. I did not like how it kind of felt like Hades and Persephone still hadn't grown as a couple in the 7 books that we've been following them. Like, I still don't feel like they knew each other. And that's a problem when you spent 7 books with a couple and the final book being this size, I just feel like they still didn't know each other, right? So, yes, but I love the found family in this book. I love our side characters. And I think that overall, this is a really good beginner fantasy romance series, romantasy, whatever you want to call it. I had a great time with it. And I think that, yeah, I would still recommend this series. I was just a little disappointed in how Scarlett St. Clair decided to wrap it up. And it's simple as that. My next 3-star is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. And this is a book where we follow, I don't know her name anymore. So in this book, we follow Ari, who's this kind of flighty type of person. She is an aspiring comedian, but works odd jobs, of course, to pay her bills. And we also follow Josh, who is this chef who is trying to get out from under his dad's shadow and also looking for the love of his life. And yeah, throughout this book, we follow Ari and Josh as they meet up randomly throughout the years until they decide to become friends because they're both dealing with really hard breakups. And through this friendship, a relationship blossoms. This story is told, I think, roughly over the course of 10 years, at least 7 or 8. And so we really get to see that friendship develop. And I enjoy the book. I think the cover is a little misleading. Like, you would think this happens in fall, but this gives fall. Everybody thinks it's fall because of this cover, because that's what it's giving. But a lot of the books happen to me in the wintertime because there's so much emphasis on New Year's throughout the book. So, yeah. But then also, I think I ended up having an issue with Ari. And I get that this was her personality, so it was done on purpose, but she was just needed help. And do I feel like she knew she needed help? Maybe, but she wasn't trying to get help. You have people around you, like, I think Josh was in therapy and things like that. So you knew it was possible, but you just decided not to. And then you also, like, it felt like Ari didn't want to be happy. Like, she wanted to be sad and alone because she consistently pushed people away and then got mad at them for actually being away. Like, sis, you pushed me out. You didn't want me to help you. You didn't want to talk to me. What am I supposed to do? Beg? No. Ari was a piece of work. She was. But I think it was pretty good. I mean, it was fine. I wanted to love it more than I actually did. I did think that their banter is pretty cute, but do I believe in their romance and love story and think that they should be a couple and like them as a couple? No, I don't. So, yeah. Okay, and moving into our 3.5 stars, I only have 2, and they actually come from the same series. So I'm just going to talk about it all together. And that is the Maiden Hair Coven series by Simone Sims, and this is a series of novellas. So in this series, we're following Maggie and Andy and their sisters, and they are witches, and their family has a reputation of being witches on this small island off the coast of Texas. And so people don't really want to interact with them. They don't really want anything to do with them because they're afraid of them. They want to reopen their family's boarding house and turn it into like a bed and breakfast inn type situation. And so Maggie is the one that kind of handles the business side, and Andy will be the chef. And so they are looking for a contractor slash handyman, somebody who will eventually live at the inn and be their maintenance person, but also to help them renovate the house and get everything up to code so they can open. And the only person who applies for this job is Remy Baptiste. And that's a problem because Remy's mother runs the campaign of hate against Maggie and Andy's family. So they think that he is like this double agent. He's just trying to help his mother out. And that turns out to not be the case because Remy is estranged from his mother for various reasons. And so Maggie and Remy end up falling in love, and it's the story of, them getting to know each other in their relationship. And I think that it was really heartfelt especially Remy's story. I liked them as a couple, but I feel like their novella felt a little jam-packed, and that was because there was world building and lore that had to be brought in at the same time that you're trying to learn about this couple, just so everything makes sense. But then when we go into, I didn't even say the name of the book. Yes, so look, I'm sorry, y'all. That first book that I'm talking about right now is called The Talk of Dreams. Okay, sorry. I mean, the picture has been up, but I still should have said the title. But anyway, so yeah, that was what The Talk of Dreams was about. And then we go into Case of the Hex, and this one follows Andy, and Andy is on her journey of sobriety. So yes, Andy had turned to drugs and pills and alcohol because she's an empath, so she is constantly bombarded with other people's emotions and feelings, and of course that can be overwhelming. So to kind of give her peace of mind, she turned to those things, but she's trying to find a more healthy way to deal with those. And so she's thrown herself into the inn, into the being the chef, not really giving herself a chance to do anything but that, so she doesn't kind of stumble into her own old ways. And in the beginning of Case of the Hex, we start off with Andy having this one night stand with the guy that she meets when she is living in New Orleans. And the funny thing about that is that same guy's name is Cass, and he turns up at the doorstep of the inn saying that he is doing research for a book he's writing, and he is doing an investigation into this music artist who said that he wrote this really famous song while he was staying at the inn back in the day, right? So of course Andy's like, I'm gonna act like I don't know this guy, even though they both really want each other. She's like, I just can't, like, this is too much, this is crazy, what are the odds, right? And he also turns out to be a witch, and so this kind of follows their story, and he is very understanding of Andy's situation because his mother was an empath, so he knows kind of firsthand what all that means and how to be there for her. And he also has a power that is kind of debilitating in that same but different kind of way. And I really enjoyed Andy and Cass's story, I think more than Maggie and Remy's, but both of these ended up being a 3.5 star. I enjoy Simone Sims' writing. I enjoy the stories. They're really cute, really fun. And if you are looking for something short and witchy, I think these are great. So alrighty, now let's get into our 4 stars. And the first one that I have right here is Six Scorch Roses by Carissa Broadbent, and this is the 1.5 novella in the Crowns of Nyaxia world. So you're supposed to read it in between Serpent in the Wings of Night and Ashes on the Star-Cursed King. And in this we follow Lilith and Vale. Lilith is a sick person. She was born sick and she feels like she's just waiting for death to take her. Okay, so then there's this curse that happens to her town and people are just dying off and there's really no cure. And Lilith's sister ends up getting the illness, and so Lilith has been trying for years and years and years to find this cure to kind of not only help her sister but also help everyone in the town. So then she decides to turn to Vale, who is a vampire, and she wants to kind of test Vale's blood to see if it can cure this illness that is going around her village. And in that time, her and Vale kind of fall in love, but of course it's forbidden because this takes place in the human lands and they want nothing to do with Vale, nothing to do with vampires in general. They serve a different god other than Nyaxia. This is the story of Lilith and Vale kind of falling in love. A lot of questions for Serpent were answered for me in this book, and as far as if you need to read it before going into Ashes, I don't think you have to. Vale is a character who has a Vale's character in the Ashes on the Star-Cursed King is pretty decent, but I don't think you need to know this information before going into that. This is a 4-star for me. I liked that Lilith was like 30 years old, but I still feel like some of the choices made in this book were just convenient for the plot and not really something that Lilith's character would do. But yes, I love Carissa Broadbent's writing. I like being in her world and being in her books, period. So yeah, 4 stars. My next 4-star read is This Ravenous Fate by Haley Dennings, and this is the story of, y'all, one day I'm gonna remember character names. In this, we're following Elise Saint and Layla Quinn, and Elise is the daughter of Tobias Saint, who is an awful person, by the way, and he has this empire that was built off of manufacturing the metal that kills reapers, and reapers are essentially vampires, right? And so Layla Quinn was turned into a vampire when she was like 13, and Layla and Elise used to be best friends growing up. And so there's this mystery of, okay, what happened to Layla and what did Elise have to do with it, because now they're enemies. So this situation happens that lands Layla in jail, and for Layla to get out and have her freedom, she has to work with Elise to clear her name and to also find out what is going on with the Reapers, because there's some kind of weird something happening and they're acting different than they usually do. So that is what this is. It's a sapphic romance where they basically go from enemies to friends to lovers, and we are also trying to solve this mystery. That's really what the forefront of the plot is. The romance is definitely on the back burner, and we are also dealing with all of this set on a 1920s Harlem Renaissance background. So you're dealing with like prohibition, you're dealing with racism, classism, colorism, all the isms. And I think this book has some really important conversations on history and all the things that I just mentioned. I really enjoyed this book. I mentioned in my review of this when I read it in my vampire vlog that this is a YA book, so some of the things that are being talked about would be on the nose and kind of like, duh to adults, but this is a YA book, and I think that for it being a YA book, it does a great job at discussing some of the harder topics and also like having that fun vampire edge to it, and also being a sapphic romance. I think all of those things kind of make this more digestible, but also like you will get the point of why Haley Dennings wrote this book. And I think it's a great debut, and I'm so happy that I picked it up. And yes, it was a 4-star for me. My next 4-star is Venco by Sherry Demeline, and this is the story of Lucky, who is this girl kind of not really enjoying life. She doesn't really have anything to look forward to, and she is taking care of her grandmother Stella, and they find out that they have to move out of their apartment. And so she's like, I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do. Rent in Toronto is high as heck, and I don't know if I can find a place for both herself and Stella. And Stella has started having memory issues. She's really elderly and doesn't need to be left alone for long periods of time. So that's an added factor on top of that. And Lucky finds this spoon in the basement, and she doesn't really think anything of it. She just thought it was a really cool spoon. But then she gets contacted by Venco under the ruse of they have a job for her, and this job would be enough money to support herself and Stella and have somewhere to live, and she wouldn't have to put Stella in a nursing home. And so yeah, she was like, well, I don't have anything else here in Toronto, so let's go. So they went to Salem. So Lucky finds out that Venco is a front company for witches, and it's where witches can hide in plain sight and make money and live, but also gather and do things that the covens need to do. This is a interesting plot, but we have a couple of things going on. So with the spoons, the first person finds the second person with the spoon, the second person finds the third finds the fourth finds the fifth, and so on and so forth. So Lucky found the 6th spoon, so she is responsible for finding the 7th person with the spoon, right? And so there's also a timeline crunch in this as well. And then we also have the added pressure of Jay Christos, who is a part of this organization who basically kills witches. And so he is on the hunt for Lucky as well to make sure that she does not find this 7th person, because once they have the 7th person, their coven can officially assemble and start doing work. And he doesn't want that to happen. Lucky and Stella go out on this road trip to try to find the 7th spoon, and the seventh witch. And so the other part of this is that Lucky took Stella with her, and so Lucky is trying to handle all this pressure. She just found out she's a witch. She's trying to find this person with the spoon. She's on this really tight deadline, and it's just a lot going on. But also she is trying to take care of Stella, who is wandering off and getting lost, and one minute she's lucid and the next she's not. And so Lucky really has to, figure out if she is going to be able to take care of Stella, or if Stella is just going to hinder her from living life. So it's a lot going on in this book, right? But I think the best way that I can describe it is this really atmospheric, witchy tale that's a middle finger to the patriarchy. There is so much women empowerment in this book, and I loved that. There's a lot of diversity. I think Sherry Demeline is indigenous, and there's also different representations and identity and diversity, all the things in this, and I really enjoyed that. And I think this is a really cool story. Y'all know I love a girl and her granny, and that is this. And I had a really great time, so it was a 4-star for me. And I listened to Spells for Forgetting, and I ended up rating this a 4-star. I didn't get to finish it in that vlog, so I'm going to tell you my final thoughts right now. And this book, we follow August and Emery. Emery and August grew up on this very small island off the coast of Seattle, I think. And so there was this big incident that happened. There was a fire on the orchard on the island, and at that same time, a young girl, Lily, was murdered, and August became a suspect in this case. And although he was never proven guilty for killing Lily, the people on the island were just like, he did it, and the people began to ostracize August and his mother, so they ended up leaving the island. But at the time, August was in a relationship with Emery, and he kind of left without saying goodbye to her, and also left her to deal with the brunt of the scrutiny, because everyone assumes that Emery knew that August did something, and she was covering for him because they were in this relationship. And so we follow them. I think it's like 14 years later, August comes back to the island for a reason, and it brings the case back up for a lot of people, and especially Emery, because she doesn't want to believe that August had anything to do with it, but she also wants to find out what happened to Lily, because Lily was her best friend. And so yeah, we're just following them as things come back up, and they try to figure out what happened to Lily to finally not only clear August's name, but also Emery's as well. And this was very, very atmospheric. That's one thing I will say. Adrienne Young is going to give atmosphere. She is going to give vibes. Out of the 2 books that I've read from her, like, we got that, and she's so good at that. Like, it was just this weird, creepy island. The way she talks about nature and can like make you get that eerie feeling that you get, it's just, the vibes were immaculate, and I had a great time. And I ended up rating this a 4-star. I think the ending for this was really underwhelming for me, which was really sad, because I was so sucked in right at the beginning, and I was really enjoying this all the way through, and then the ending just kind of fell. It felt like she was building up to this big explosive thing that just didn't happen. So that's why it ended up being a 4-star instead of a 5, but I still had a good time and would recommend this for a fall-ish, creepy-ish, eerie kind of mood. And my last 4-star is going to be Fall I Want by Lyra Parrish, and this is a cutie little rom-com. So in this book, we follow our main character Autumn, who works at this little coffee shop in this small town named Cozy Creek, and she ends up meeting this guy named Zane. He comes into the coffee shop and he's very rude to her, and she's like, ew, like what? But then something happens, and Zane kind of forces Autumn to hang out with him and to be his friend. And so through this friendship, Zane ends up stepping in for Autumn when they run into her ex-boyfriend, and kind of insinuates, that they're dating. And so they start this fake dating relationship to get back at said ex-boyfriend. And it just turns, of course, from fake dating into something else. And this is a very layered and interesting type of story, because Zane escaped to Cozy Creek to hide away from the press and from his life, because he's not sure that that's what he wants. He is the heir to a big real estate company and he has had a very public, very bad breakup. And also, a docu-series has been filmed and about his family, and so he really just wants nothing to do with the public. He wants to kind of hibernate for a little bit. He goes to Cozy Creek because they have a house there, because his mother really loved Cozy Creek and that's where they would spend their winters. So he's trying to go there and reconnect with his mother and just chill out and reevaluate life. And Autumn wants to be a romance author, but she can't seem to pen the book because her romantic life kind of blew up, and the guy that she thought she was going to marry ended up being a complete asshole and just not great. And that was that guy that Zane kind of saved her from. And yeah, this was so just, I think, cozy and fallish and so bingeable and easy to fall into. There are some cringy things like her name being Autumn, and this was a fall romance, like too much for me. But, and some of the dialogue was a little cringy, but just being, this book felt like a hug, like a warm hug with hot chocolate, if that makes sense. Or maybe apple cider, if that's your thing. Warm apple cider. Like, that's what it felt like. It was just so easy to fly through this book. Now, this was a long romance. I think it was like over 400 pages. Yeah, it was like 470 ish pages, which is wild, but I don't mind a long romance. And I flew through this in 24 hours. Like, I was in it. Like, when I was reading this book, I didn't want to read anything else. I just wanted to be in this story. And that says a lot considering that I thought it was cringy. And yes, so I had a great time with this. And lastly, we are going to be moving into our 5 stars for October. And y'all, these were some hits, okay? These hit for me. The first one being Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This is the sequel to Assistant to the Villain. And the way I ate this up, the way I think I might have liked this more than the first one, I don't know. It's a tight race, but this gave something. I just I don't even know what to say. So I don't think I can say too much about this because it is a sequel, but we all know that Assistant to the Villain follows Evie Sage, who is looking for a job and stumbles upon the villain, and she has to hide that she's working for him because of course it's treasonous, and this is set in like a fairy tale-esque type of world. And I just I had such a great time with this. I love that we got new POVs, new budding romances. Kingsley, our little frog friend, had much more of a role slash personality in this, and we found out more about him. I just feel like this gave everything that I wanted the sequel to give. There were twists, there were turns, there were people popping up that shouldn't have been popping up, but also like, yes, like other things were in this, and I just really enjoy it. It's so fun, and it's just like an escape. And yeah, like I have a great time when I read this book, and I can't wait to reread it and just like, yeah, and seeing Evie become more sure of who she is and being okay with, the type of person that she's becoming. And her look, we got a little bit of action, okay, not a lot. We're still slow burning now, and that's 2 books in. We're still slow burning, but we got a little bit. She gave us some crumbs, and of course I ate those crumbs up. So yes, where's the third book? I need it now. And the last book that I'm going to talk about, I did save the best for last in this video. This was my favorite book of the month. I'm obsessed, okay? I'm obsessed. And that is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia and the finale of Araya and Rain's story. And y'all, look at that. Look at these tabs. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say because I can't say too much because it's a sequel. But also, ugh, okay. Let me tell you about the first book. So in this duet, we follow Araya, who is a human, and a vampire. The vampire king kind of took her in and adopted her. She can't really do anything because she's a human in a world of vampires. And what do vampires want to do? They want to eat humans, right? So he has taught her how to fight and how to protect herself. And she enters the Kajari, which is a fight to the death competition to receive a wish from the goddess Nyxia. And she allies with this guy named Rain, who is a vampire, and they take on the Kajari together. This book picks up where we left off in The Serpent of the Wings of Night, right after the events of the Kajari. And the way that I felt all of the emotions reading this book, the way that I just, Araya and Rain are going to be one of my favorite book couples of all time. And I just love them so much. And there were so many feelings and things that had to be dealt with in this book. And yeah. And also the secrets that were coming out and the plot. And I like that Carissa Broadbent can give us heartbreaking moments, but also like moments of like triumph and victory. Like everything is not going to just automatically work out for the characters in her books. And I like that. Like, give me heartbreak, give me happy, give me all of the emotions, right? And there's something about Carissa Broadbent, like when you get to a certain point in her books, like she knows how to hook you, because the same thing happened when I read Serpent. I got to a certain point and I just could not stop reading, and I had to like binge to the end to find out what happened. And the fact that happened with both of her books, these books, this series will be a part of my best books of the year. And I'm just really excited and happy that I finally gave into the hype and decided to pick them up. So now we're going to go into our November reset portion where we do our journal spreads and create our TBR show. So let's go. Yeah. And I think that is it for this video, y'all. Thank you so much for staying into the end and spending some time with me. I hope that you enjoyed watching me wrap up October and, get ready for November. I can't believe it's already here. Like, that's wild. 2024 is just blown by. Thank you to all of my new subscribers. I'm so happy that you are here and going on this journey with me. And with that being said, I hope you have the best day that you possibly can, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.